as we possibly can. So you hear us use her name at every turn. That's it.
Yeah, sometimes you'll see us laughing along with Dawn. We're trying to, at the beginning of that, we're creating rapport, getting him to like us and wanting to tell us stuff so he feels safe. And some of these videos is going to look a little bit nervous, especially at the beginning as we get the baseline videos. Because at that point, he hasn't really connected with his head. He can't tell. He's been stung a couple times, people coming out and doing it with an agenda that he wasn't aware of when they were videoing, and that came out later and didn't look too good for him. But so as we go through this, remember that's the way this looks. Also, let me add that day, Don had his ears were stopped up, and they really were, because sometimes we'll ask him a question, he'll say, "What?" And people go, "Oh, this is where he's busted. He couldn't hear." We talked to him out in the parking lot before that for 5-10 minutes, and he was everything, because he couldn't hear well, and he kept saying, "Listen, my ears are clogged up." So when you see that, it's not him being shocked by the question. He just didn't hear it. He couldn't hear it. We know the difference in those two, the way those look. So just so you know. And he prefaced it with that, and we went in knowing that. So, all right, you guys ready?
Let's go.
Oh, no. I wish I did.
Any earthly idea what happened to her?
No, I wish I did.
Do you think K.N.S had anything to do with it?
No.
And what about this? And you think what might have happened to her was what?
She was kidnapped.
Yeah. All right, Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, very simple. She was kidnapped. Seems very assured of that. Downward intonation on that. The eye contact that he has on.
Any earthly idea what happened to her?
No, I wish I did.
Do you think K.N.S had anything to do with it?
No.
And what about this? And you think what might have happened to her was what?
She was kidnapped.
Yeah. Right, great. All right, now let's run around the room really quickly, and we'll all give 30 seconds or less of what we think happened. We'll go to Mark, we'll go to Sweetie Pie, then we'll go to Greg, and we'll see where we end up there. Mark?
What that might be about. So I'm kind of interested. What ideas on that? Chase, what do you think? Any answer for me on that eye flutter just after? Any earthly idea what happened?
No, I think he's processing data. I think an eye flutter wouldn't mean very much. Did you want me to go as well?
Yeah, I'm done. I mean, that's just assured for me. That's the only question I have in that one. Yeah.
Okay, so his eye closure here, for just every other question throughout the entire video, even the clips that we're not looking at here with you, his eyes flutter. When talking about K.N.S, they shut. They are shut down. And each of his denials contain multi-syllables. There are high-frequency tones, there's low-frequency tones, so there's tonal fluctuation in his voice. And when it comes time to talk about K.N.S, Scott asks him about K.N.S, and Scott gives in lows one syllable, one word answer, and it's a downward tone, which is the opposite of him talking about being kidnapped. And this stands out as being so different that this is a huge red flag. His eyebrows move and communicate in every single denial except for the one about K.N.S. His head shake slowed down and was more deliberate when it came down to talking or denying, saying that she was kidnapped, which goes with his baseline behavior in that he believes it and that he agrees with that statement. So I will say I'll just say I would suggest that there is a very high likelihood for deception around the question that Scott, you specifically asked about K.N.S. I'll let you talk about that.
All right. My concern with this at first was when I said, "Do you know what happened to her?" That no, I wish I did. That's fairly common if you go through these people that are asked that question. But when we got to the end, I said, "What is it you think that happened to her?" And I was saying these things not like, "So what do you think happened to her?" It was they're very wide as I'm asking them, so he has to take them in a word at a time and almost guess what I'm going to say next, so we can get that reaction once it dawns on him. That's the part that bothered me when he said she was kidnapped. Greg has a great take on that specifically. As he goes through, we still aren't confident that he believes K.N.S. From my perception of what's going on, I'm not so sure he believes what she's saying, because what Chase, what you're saying, you covered everything on that. So yeah, the eye and her eye blinks and her eye blocking at that point plays a huge part in that. Huge part in that. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, there's a difference in Chase, you're on to about K.N.S, and I had the same suspicions. And the last one, I'm going to leave everything else off and just talk about the last one. Kidnapped is the first time we hear this word. He's used the word abducted before. Kidnapped is not the same as abducted. Kidnapped usually comes along with a request for something in exchange for the person. Most all humans think that. We watch TV. We know. Now, could it be that it's a subtlety wasted on Don? Could be. But when I heard that word, my brain went ding, ding, ding.
No, I wish I did.
Do you think K.N.S had anything to do with it?
No.
And what about this? And you think what might have happened to her was what?
She was kidnapped.
Yeah. Right, great. All right, now let's run around the room really quickly, and we'll all give, 30 seconds or less of what we think happened. We'll go to Mark, we'll go to Sweetie Pie, then we'll go to Greg, and we'll see where we end up there. Mark?
Yeah, with the search for Summer Wells, and I think it's quite easy for us to get wound up in that soap opera. What I take away from this is to try not to do that and try and stick to the more factual elements that we can see. Around us. So widen it out into this extraordinary soap opera with stepsisters and all kinds of and YouTubers and Facebook and all these people involved, and narrow it a little more down, because I think that's where we're going to find the real issues here. When I look through the whole of the interview, I do get interested by how unsecure would be going right now towards that. Not so much on Don. Could be wrong. Chase, your thoughts?
This video really illustrates the importance of understanding microcultures and cultural differences in people. This is the reason that we baseline human beings. And when we hear these phrases like got gone and things like that, I didn't know until very recently that that's common along the entire part. I'm open to admit all that stuff, because that's part of what we're understanding when we're talking to somebody that's in a microculture. We're also talking to a person with a checkered past that everyone will use to paint the future. I'm going to dip my finger in this past. I'm going to start to just paint the future. I'm going to be very certain about what's going on. I think that, in my opinion, that Don Wells is mostly honest, and I think that there is a tremendous amount of doubt or uncertainty that at some knowledge there. I think I went over 30 seconds. I apologize. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, this is one of those great opportunities for you to take away your bias. I'm going to tell you, when I went there, the guy has a background. We know he has a background. He may even still be doing some things that you may or may not agree with. I'm not talking to any of that. I went there with one purpose in mind. I wanted to know what he knew about Summer Wells, what this whole thing is about, and whether he was involved in the disappearance of Summer Wells. I'll tell you, based on reason to lie about that caused stress, and looking for that stress level to rise, and then finally going right to the point and hammering, and seeing him emotional about this kid the day before, I'm going to tell you, I don't believe he's involved in her disappearance. Could I be wrong? Sure. But based on everything I saw face to face, based on everything I felt and saw and learned and thought and listened by watching and listening to his baseline and looking for deviation at the key moments, I don't think he's involved.